Welcome to another episode of the Reboot Chronicles, a no-holds-barred forum with global leaders, authors, entrepreneurs, and CEOs about how organizations stay focused on growth and innovation in unprecedented times. I'm your host, Dean DeVias, coming to you live from Reviv's North American headquarters in Chicago, and we would like to thank you for joining us from around the globe today. I'd like to welcome one of the world's top beauty entrepreneurs, Randi Shinder, to the Reboot Chronicles. Randi is the CEO of SBLA Beauty, which she founded after discovering there were really no technology-based topical skincare solutions out there, at least for the neck area. The company first launched with its innovative sculpting wand, a scientifically driven anti-aging solution for the neck, chin, jawline, and décolletage area, which received Product of the Year award right away. So that's always good, but doesn't stop there. She's a beauty trailblazer. Randi also created some brands you probably heard of, so let's just rattle them off here. I'm pretty impressed with this list, and most of you know I'm not easily impressed with this kind of track record. It's good. So Clean Perfume was one of the top independent fragrance brands. Fusion Beauty, which was the first brand to pass almost $70 million in retail at Sephora. A fragrance line called I Smell Great, which she launched with Sophia Bush, and also Dessert Beauty. I'm getting hungry now with Jessica Simpson. So pretty fun track record there. Randi, good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
You've had such a, I don't know what word to use, busy life. I mean, you seem like you're like me. You can do 5 things at once. But maybe we just start there. What really drives you?
Is that saying if you want something done, give it to a busy person? I wholeheartedly believe that as much as...
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that people who, and look, there's a lot of people in this world that are just complacent and just, they're fine. And sometimes I wish I had more of that in me. But I have a constant flow of ideas and intellectual property that I protect for the future. So I don't believe that I'm at a place in my life where I'm slowing down. And I also don't, there's a life that came before the beauty industry as well. So I've been successful, and I've also, I found success in my chosen industry, which is beauty. But even before that, my background is really in loyalty marketing. So that led me into the beauty space because it was a passion that I hadn't yet pursued. And I always believed that, everything you do is a stepping stone to the next thing, the next big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I love eclectic careers, not just ones where you're a serial entrepreneur, serial CEO, but ones where you actually cross around in industries. So yeah, I could see loyalty was a good training ground because that's what everyone's trying to get their arms around right now, no matter how you look at it. And so SBLA kind of, since then you obviously started with one product and have expanded in all other, a larger line. Just how's that going? How's the scale going on that one?
So everything's been launched on a vertical. The initial concept was to launch the original neck wand, which was meant to be a targeted technology for women, as it's, it's the thinnest skin on your face along with your eyelids. And those are the 2 areas where women and men have the most concern with regards to the aging process. So I went at it very much the way I went at Fusion, which started as only lip fusion. So in a sense, it was history repeating itself for me. I owned Clean Perfume, which today does over $100 million, $150 million worldwide. I no longer own it. I sold it. However, and I also sold Fusion Beauty. But then I owned I Smell Great, and I still do, and I still own inventory for I Smell Great. But SBLA came along, a single SKU, launched on a vertical for the neck with targeted technology for the area, and on a $3 million ad spend on just Facebook. At that time, we did over $8 million in revenue. So again, I found myself very much where I was when Lip Fusion launched, and Sephora bought 100,000 units, and they sold in a day. And then we chased inventory. And then I ended up in a very unique partnership with Sephora as a result of that, because they just bought millions of components and sent them to my manufacturer and said, we order, you fill, we'll deduct the cost of the component from your invoice, period. And just to keep us in stock.
Yeah, I was going to say, careful what you wish for, 8 million units, then you can't fulfill inventory. Because yours wasn't just, goop and a stick, as some CEOs call it. You have some technology related to it. And this was pandemic time stuff. And do you think that kind of launch acceptance hit rate can happen now and in the future? Or was that a fluke because that was a huge coup?
Well,
at launch.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's a huge coup because I've seen that. It's happened to me a few times in my career. So I'm not going to go with it's a huge coup. I'll go with if you can figure out where the white space is in this industry, true white space. That's completely underserviced. There's just nothing in there. There's a void. And you can fill the void and you can fill it with something that actually makes sense to the consumer because nothing like it exists. Then you have a win on your hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't really just talking about your product, but just some people have spent that much on Facebook with very disappointing results. Nothing like what you had.
I wouldn't
that was brilliant. It was maybe
I wouldn't necessarily spend $3 million unless, of course, I was seeing the results. And it was really fun at the beginning.
I bet.
To just watch the revenue, like the revenue numbers come in. And don't forget, it's a direct to consumer. Yeah. We'd watch it every night. I'd have these my kids would watch it with me. And I love how my kids have watched my journey as well I've been in the industry over 20 years. So, it's been interesting. And even just to watch Shopify and to see where the sales were coming from, and they were coming from all over the world at first, actually. And it was just very interesting for them to even see, let's say I said to them, if I hit $70,000 today, we're going to Italy this summer. Like I would just say silly things like that, because I believe in just putting things out there you can call it manifesting. I don't care what you call it. And laws of the universe, quantum physics, regardless. I just believe in that. And it was a lot of fun to watch it with my kids, and they're rooting for this thing to hit like that number because they want to take that trip. And
go, Mom, go. I love it.
Exactly. So it was fun. That part of it was fun. That launch was fun.
You've also brought in some stars over the years, Christie Brinkley, Sophia Bush, Jessica Simpson. Probably others.
With Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake in my loyalty at a loyalty.com loyalty brand, which had the first ever online currency. So it was kind of way before its time with 2 million members. So
I was going to say you kind of we're on the edge there. How should brands think about that now? I mean, is having a celebrity associated with their brand, how important is it?
From my perspective now, unless the celebrity has a humongous audience, then it should just be an influencer type relationship where they actually really like the product and want to use it, and you can negotiate all kinds of different structures. However, with a very large audience, you can reduce your ad spend, and I think that's a very interesting key to success. If you're remain a D2C brand. So if they have a huge audience of followers who believe everything they say is gospel and are going to purchase as a result of them using your product, then I'm all for it. Otherwise, I think my viewpoint on that component is not what it used to be. And I've had many celebrities get on the phone with me in the past and asked me to create a brand for them, especially after Dessert. Dessert was a very successful brand at Sephora, and then into the prestige market, and then into the mass market, and then a whole other version of it for Walmart. So it was sort of the brand that kept on giving. Aside from that, I said I had to say no to quite a few of them. I just couldn't wrap my head around why would this make sense? Why would anybody actually purchase this. And it can't just be about celebrity. There has to be more to the story from my.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I think it's many of them have the audience, but you can't get the right deal done too. It's got to be the right deal for the company size. When you look at, it's such a crowded market out there now. There's almost too many. I love that health, beauty, and wellness, the whole larger category, has so many independent brands coming in, so many female entrepreneurs, so many that are getting going and being bought out. So the M&A market's been better than it's ever been in this industry. I think. Do you think it's a little bit oversaturated now too, though?
I think it was hot. I think the acquisitions were much more significant. I want to say at the end of 2021, early 2022, than they are right now. I think because everybody started to talk about the word, recession and things like that, everything quieted down for a little while, and now everything is the actual M&A, sort of all the acquisitions are much greater than they were. I'm just going to say, but in the last year, so things are heating up again, and just like real estate, from my perspective, I sort of see they're in tandem with one another, from my perspective, anyways, and so I think that some brands were struggling, so therefore there were a lot of acquisitions, like I said, from a lot of aggregators and things like that. I had a lot of discussions with people, and then I got to the point where I just felt far too distracted from running my own company. And that's the thing about big liquidity events or medium-sized liquidity events, is that you're wildly distracted from what you should be doing on a day-to-day basis. So
very much so. Been on both sides of that many times, but it's it just seems like, from a consumer point of view, they go into the stores and you just pick a category. It doesn't matter what it is, from potato chips to skincare. It's overwhelming. So online helps because you can search, you can do personalization. So it's kind of where I'm going with the question is, what are your thoughts on personalization of different products?
Well, I don't know exactly what you mean by personalization, because from a technical standpoint, by bringing in the very, very new aspects of AI, there's a lot more personalization involved in brands being recommended to consumers.
Exactly. So there's like the front end kind. So companies like Revive, where they're doing skin diagnostics, therefore narrowing down the choice. And then there's others where they're actually at the compound level doing personalization. So either one.
Well, I think that the more you personalize, or the more effective your personalization is, in terms of like communicating with your customer and meeting their needs without bothering them, because I think it's a fine line. I think that there's a very smart component to it, in everything from your email campaigns to your SMS campaigns, right through to how you're placing your ad spend. So your media spend, like, as for example, today is a strong day in the digital space. I can't tell you why. Like, it's become that strange a world, that attribution and everything that goes along with acquiring new customers, which used to be as simple as, we're looking for top of funnel new customer acquisitions. This is where we're going. Punch in all these brands, find our audience. It's not like that at all anymore. It's a completely new world. I'd like to become the president of Pinterest. I see, as an example, an opportunity there that is completely and totally overlooked by that company. Like, there are just some things that are just...
It's kind of been a sleeper. We'll probably have the CEO on. I'll talk to him for you.
I really do think that there is so much room for other platforms to bring in brands, even bring in a few as case studies that do
bring in the influence, bring in the feel, the look, the design, everything.
I know,
instead of just like buy.
Because I live there. It's like the rabbit hole of time. So I actually truly believe that I'm saying as an example, that is one of the platforms that could do so much more that's shoppable, and for some reason is not. I mean, we get contacted by these people. They're far too junior to even like really even lead you in the right direction. And we spend limited resources there, even though if it was my company, that's not how I would run it. I really
Yeah,
think it's
great,
really,
great fit for your kind of
yeah.
products too. So you've touched on a lot of the platforms. Some of them, we like. Some of them are a bit oligopolish, but so you're probably big on Amazon. Sounds like Shopify, other platform. How do you sort out DTC, direct to consumer, versus being, or maybe DTC is the platforms for you, which is fine, or using theirs, and versus retail? And how do you just think about when you want to 10x the size of your company over the next few years? I can see it in your eyes. Yeah, how do you think about, should I do it by direct? Should we do it through these channels? Who do we have to partner with? Are they our frenemies? Retail channel, all that stuff.
It's interesting because the former CEO of Sephora and I still speak, and you can see how the Sephora model changed in terms of Sephora
Exactly.
rebuilt itself based on the indie brands, and I was a number of those indie brands,
You were.
and they really celebrated the independent brands. But now, I mean, I understand why this happened, but after my large liquidity event, and I had to stay on for 3 years as CEO, and then I had a non-compete for 3 years, so I was completely out of the industry. And I came back and I was like, whoa, what's happening here? It was like what had happened in 3 years was nobody was reading magazines. There were no digital ads. So that's when I guess the celebrity element became important because you needed their audience in order to actually make sales. Otherwise, I don't really understand how you were supposed to market your products. Because the Sephora, as an example, it became about the brands that fed into Sephora were either owned in part by Sephora or were being fed by Kendo, which was owned by Sephora, or Credo, which is owned by Sephora, which is the natural and organic side of the business, or by LVMH, which is the parent company to Sephora. So I walked through Sephora stores and I saw that the indie brands, some of them which were still there, had such small displays. They'd be behind a
Yeah.
door or something like that. And I met with the two people. One just became president, and the person who was my skincare buyer and who's now head of skincare, and they just said to me, it's not the same here. You are not going to enjoy this. It's just, this isn't for you, Randy. Like, you had the first.
Yeah, it's called scale. It ruins many things, unfortunately. But
No, it's
I
it ruined
I
it.
thought
I can understand why Sephora had to do that because, quite frankly, with the pandemic and not being able to really, people weren't in their stores any longer. It used to be going to Sephora was a huge treat for people.
big experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything became about .com, which was always their biggest store, but now it was humongous. And in terms of margin and maintaining margin, it had to be all related to Sephora. I understand. It's the same reason why I decided to create a D2C brand, to maintain
Yeah.
control and not share margin too often. So everything that I do, or I make the decisions that I make right now anyways, are to maintain as much margin as possible. So I do partner with Good Morning America as an example, and we'll air with them, and I have to give their viewers 50% off for sometimes it's for a day, sometimes it's for longer, but regardless, I'm giving 50% margin, which is, like, at the end of the day, much lower ultimately than what I'm going to end up with everybody I have to hire, and all of the just getting everything that I would want at Sephora, it makes more sense for me to give away the 50% margin. Plus, I get to keep everybody's orders in my database. So I've just brought in all these new customers from all over the country because it airs in every single market.
So you're trying to stay big time, maybe a DTC hybrid. Are you also on Amazon and Shopify and all these other
our
guys?
Amazon store we're just starting to pay a lot more attention to that because Amazon is sort of being, well, I'm going to say this. Amazon definitely celebrates independent brands, but then there's Amazon brands as well. But
Yes.
I think the Amazon brands are one sort of category. It's fairly easy to tell, but I think the independent brands are right now getting a strong foothold, much stronger foothold in Amazon. We just hired a new Amazon team. And so I see lots of opportunity for us on Amazon. But again, I still feel like that's in the direct, like not direct, but indirectly direct to the consumer.
Yeah.
So,
No. Hybrid DTC. I just made up
I'm
a new
also
term, but whatever.
communicating with my customers through Amazon as well. So, when you work with the right group who really understand Amazon and how to scale on Amazon, then you're still, again, it's about personalization. You're talking to your consumer.
What about, so I always ask CEOs this, especially emerging growth, even the tech companies, like, okay, so what about the big dogs? All the big companies out there, you've mentioned one, there's many others. How do you compete with them?
I don't. When people ask me who my competitors are, very often, I always say I don't really know because I don't actually look at what other brands are doing. I'm acutely aware of the fact that we're doing something that nobody else is doing by putting targeted technology into an application device. And each technology is different depending on the area. Like when you asked me if the neck wand was kind of this anomaly because of the time in which it was like sort of marketed and it was new and unique and all of that, can that be sustainable or recreated? Well, our number one selling SKU is the eye wand, and it's one of our newer SKUs. We cannot keep that SKU in stock no matter how many we make.
Yeah, I bet.
But the technology works. We just finished like hardcore 2-week and 4-week clinical studies on it that, were a protocol of, and 35 people, which is one of the largest clinicals I've run since I've been in the industry. And we just got the results today. And I just looked at their images and, they measure everything in terms of like how much more open the eye is, like even a few hours after application. And I also filmed. So we actually partnered with a television initiative, which is in the D2C space that will begin to air, I'm going to assume in May, and continue for a year. There'll be over 400 and some odd airings. I'm choosing news channels primarily because it's an election cycle. And I think for the time being, that's probably a wise choice to cover the gamut. So whether it's CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, I'm just going to, try to cover everybody. But that we aired about, so we filmed over 8 hours of 4K footage. And
8 hours. Whoa.
Yeah, it was long.
That's a lot.
Next week I get to watch all the edits. Wow. Scared to see everything. But I did an application, and I typically don't do this. So I was doing an application on a model, and she had forehead lines, and she had 11s, and she had under eye bags as well as discoloration. I'm not saying she had what normal people have without doing anything about it. Her eyelids were hanging, so she had some eyelid creases that were making her eyelids heavier. She had some divots in her I don't really even know what this is. And she didn't have many jowls or anything like that, but everything just needed a little bit of tweaking. So I did a full application on her of our products. And when I was using the eye wand, I was literally watching her eye opening. So I know that there's initial results, and I asked her to please send me a picture after dinner that night. So once she went home, because I wanted to see because I know that at a certain point, you start to see better results. And I also know that the more you use it, the more, like at 17 days, you sort of start to see the best results possible, and they sort of continue from there. So I asked, and then when she sent in her picture, so these were gone, and the her under eye bags were gone from the eye wand. Her eyes were lifted from the eye wand, and her everything that was her nasolabial folds. The lines were completely eliminated. Any lines above her lip were eliminated, and because we have a new liquid facelift wand. And then I thought, I'm going to try something, because she had really bad discoloration. So I'd gotten rid of the bags, and I saw that they were going to be gone completely, but the discoloration was there. So I thought, I'm going to try the liquid facelift wand on the discoloration. So I started doing that, and I saw that it was going away. So when that happens and somebody's capturing that live, and you're the founder and you've never done an application like this on somebody before, I was giddy.
Pretty,
you could
pretty
actually,
exciting.
you could actually, it's palpable in terms of what the consumer is looking at and how that's real authentic content.
It's got to be a good emotional video too. I want to try it now. I'm getting FOMO. How is the, I know majority of your audience is probably 40 to 60-year-old women. I think I read that somewhere, but I don't know if that's actually
I'm going to say
stay, but it's like
women from like
what do you
40
think?
to 60, whatever years old. It doesn't matter.
What about men? What do you think about men in this market?
My COO is a man, and he uses all the products. And he's 64. You would never know that he's 64. And his jawline is tight and sculpted, and he's not having surgery. And his neck is young, and his eyes are open, but he uses the products. Interestingly, my father is 82, and he's a CPA and oversees a lot of our accounting and things like that. And I can always tell when he's been using the eye wand and everything else, and the neck wands. And he looks.
CPAs always have bags under their eyes. He definitely does. I bet he loves it.
He looks so young for his age that when last year, this tour, but last February, I took him to see Springsteen for the second time, and he was standing in the pit, and there were 3 doctors there, and he asked them to guess his age, and they put him somewhere in his 70s, and he said, "No, I'm 82," and they were like, I'm 81 at the time, and
I was going to say 60s, Springsteen. That's good. He's probably using it too. Hey, when you look out, Randi, where's this going to be in 5 years? What's your vision?
I don't think I'll be the CEO, maybe a director.
Just the company, though. You know what?
Well, like you talked about,
not exit so much, but just what do you want to? This is your next baby. What do you want it to turn into?
Well, are you asking me where SBLA will be, or where I'll be, or both?
SBLA.
Oh,
SBLA.
SBLA. It'll probably be available at retail. I think it'll also be a brand that's available it'll have much more of a global footprint as opposed to now. We do ship all over the world, and we do get orders from all over the world, but we don't advertise in many markets. And I think that's sort of the next step for us. I do think this should be a global brand. Of course, you have to deal with all the compliance issues, and you have to have the bandwidth to do that. It's
lots of fun. Compliance,
it's actually not that bad, but
so geographic expansion, product line expansion, which you've already done. You're moving around the whole body.
Well, there's more. There's the whole body that we can look at. There's also, and one of the things that's I was going to say I'm very acutely aware of is the fact that you talk about Revive skincare, and I know that our wands, because everything we do in sort of a wand that has an antimicrobial application device and 104 measured doses. So it's very specific what we're doing. We're asking the consumer to use it on clean skin. So then, regardless of what they do with their plastic surgeons or dermatologists, or if they do nothing, the idea is for people to see results. But once that happens, they need skincare. Everybody needs good skincare. So when you talk about brands like Revive, I know that I'm losing market share once they finish using the wand to, let's say, one of the premier prestige beauty brands. Could be Augustinus Bader, it could be Beauty, it could be Revive, it could be any one of those brands. And
Sure.
so I'm a serum junkie. I always like to order these really weird things. So I've been using and I'm addicted to this Japanese serum that has a very small molecule hyaluronic acid sphere that I just believe works, and my skin just drinks it up. So I'm just going to stick with it, even though it's ridiculously expensive, but so is Revive. And I just think that it makes sense for us to take our technology in the form where it doesn't necessarily have to be in this airless application device, but make sure it works as a companion to the wand, and move into a little bit more into skincare. Have a small skincare collection that makes sense for the consumer who's using this wand or this wand or this wand or this wand to finish off their eye care routine, their skin routine, their neck, whatever it may be, where they need actually good skincare. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate you joining us. Any personal reboot story or advice for entrepreneurs you want to leave us with?
Yeah, every single brand that you start, I believe in, that you're really invested in, like this. I have 2 children. They're the most important things in my life, no matter what I'm doing work-wise. But I think when you start a brand and you're really close to it and you're the founder of it, it's somewhat like raising a child, in the sense that it takes up your time, and if it's going to grow and it's successful, it really does. You really have to be committed to its growth and just seeing it through, regardless to whatever the end result is. Hopefully, a good liquidity event, but and there are trials and tribulations that come along with that. I mean, I was my ex-husband and I were we're partners somewhat, not in the creation, but in the running of those initial brands. And personally, probably my divorce is the most significant aspect of personal trial for myself, for my kids, for everybody. But
yeah,
it's been a long time ago.
Yeah, you had the guts to do it, too. It's beautiful. Great story, Randy. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Randi Shinder, who is the CEO of SBLA Beauty. This is Dean DeBias with the Reboot Chronicles. We want to thank you for joining us today. We'll see you soon.